I'd like to greet all human beings all around the world with the universal greetings of peace and the blessing of God be with you. It doesn't matter what your political, philosophical, personal, nor religious beliefs may be. It doesn't matter if you're the richest or the poorest person on the face of this earth. It doesn't matter if you're the proclaimed toughest or the proclaimed weakest person on the face of this earth. It doesn't matter if you're my family, friends, or nor my proclaimed enemies. It doesn't matter whether you light-skinned or dark-skinned. It doesn't matter whether you like me, my YouTube videos, whether you give me criticism or compliments. I still greet all of you all with the universal greetings of peace and the blessing of God be with you. Today happened to be, well, the night happened to be Wednesday, May the 20th, 2020. It's about 8:30 p.m. 2020 now. You know, I repeat it sometime because some people's head is so hard that it bounces off. 2020 is the time of the vision, the time to change, the time for the betterment of the uplifting of all people, not just the same people. It's the uplifting for all the people. What I want to talk about now, I want to talk about the have and the have-nots. You see, the haves, they would tell you that I'm a racist. You see, the haves would tell you that all I talk about is sellout blacks and white supremacists. The haves would tell you that I'm a rapist. The haves would tell you that I pled guilty to a misdemeanor sexual misconduct. The haves would tell you that I'm living off of my daddy and my two children. The haves would tell you that I'm doing something to my two young daughters. The haves would tell you any of those things that I just named. But one thing I'm going to tell you about the haves will not be able to produce what they say. You see, I had to show one of the haves or sellout black or white supremacists when they claim that I pled guilty to a misdemeanor sexual misconduct, which I know I didn't. I didn't have to prove it to them, but most of all the people that know me know I didn't. Then they know when I was falsely charged and wrongfully convicted, but that's a whole different thing. You see, the haves would tell you that the justice system is fair in the United States. But if you go 15 miles north of here to Sisey, Missouri, and ask a brother by the name of David Robertson, who was wrongfully convicted and spent 18 years in the penitentiary because he was black and a white female got killed and a white detective lied on the report and said that he did it. It took 18 years before that was overturned. And all the detective get for them 18 years that the white detective get for the 18 years that the black man served in a maximum security prison, all he got was he resigned or he was removed off the force. You see, what he should have been is it been like Eddie Murphy movie, Trading Places. He should have been going to the penitentiary. You see what I'm saying? But you know, the haves would tell you that I'm saying this here on a racial level. I'm saying it because it's facts. You see, the haves wasn't in that courtroom when I had my first jury and they was pooled, black and white, told the judge and the prosecuting attorney and my lawyer on that sexual misconduct case, when they was asked it, did they think that a black man can have a fair trial in Charleston, Missouri, Mississippi County, when a white person was charging him or accusing him of a crime? You know, white and blacks got up and said they didn't think so. They wasn't even picked yet. Some of the whites and blacks got up and said that. But let me tell you what the prosecuting attorney, the big time farmer lady, told the judge that they grew up with. You see what I'm saying? Told him, asked him for a mistrial. The trial hadn't even started.
All right.
Hey now. But the judge granted the mistrial. But yet here it is, when we did actually have a trial, and they excluded all the blacks off. They asked one black person, I'm not going to mention their name, a brother, do he think he can judge fairly because of one of his relatives was in the Missouri Department of Corrections? He said his relative committed a crime and they doing their time. That has nothing to do with me thinking. But you got to remember, this is a white prosecuting attorney whose family is big time farmers who grew up with the judge. You see what I'm saying? And he said he could judge fairly. But guess what they did? They excluded him off the jury. They took him off the jury. A white female. See, I got the transcripts. John Cole and the rest of them don't have none of that. They doing what James Brown said, it's the dark night, nothing cutting. They talking loud and ain't saying nothing because they don't know. I was there. But they asked the white woman the same thing, and I have it in black and white. But I ain't gonna put it on my YouTube because I don't have to, because I know it's true. I just wanted to put the last one on the YouTube to show you that John Cole, no matter how many of these crooked law enforcement officials that he have aid and assist him, they don't have the whole story. I do. And the female that's in Texas now, and some of the females here that sat in the courtroom on that trial, they know what these people did. But they asked this white woman the same thing. She had a relative in the Missouri Department of Corrections. They asked her the same thing. And she said she can judge fair. Guess what? The lawyer tried to get her off, but they kept her. You know why they kept her? Because of black, they knew what they was doing. Ain't it strange? Out of all the blacks that was there, and there was a lot of them, they excluded all. But a few of them that really shocked me, one of them is even a minister. The other one is married to one of these big families here, but I still speak to them. They wouldn't get on the jury because they said that they don't think that they can judge fair because they knew me. If you feel that I'm guilty, please, vote, then I'm guilty. But I still speak to them. But let me tell you, it wasn't no strange happenings that the haves. You see, I got paperwork saying with the jurors, one of the jurors was even at the prosecuting attorney's family house the night before they was picked, eating dinner. That's how the decks was stacked. You see, I know I wasn't guilty of it because my record, if you look in Illinois, you'll never see nothing like that. Now, you'll see some violence on there. The violence is when somebody approached me. If they approach me today in a threatening manner, I'm going to do my best to where they'll never threaten nobody else again. But that's another story. But you see, when you going up against the haves, a corrupted system, you see, John Cole, I believe it was John Cole. If it wasn't, I don't care if it wasn't him or not. It was him or one of the other names he used. He said his dad his granddad and some of his other relatives was in the war. I even think he said some of them was in World War II. He said they didn't have no complaints. Now listen to this. They didn't have no complaints. You remember who my YouTube videos be talking about and who it's talking up for? I talk up for the have-nots. Now, John Cole may be telling the truth on that. You see, because John Cole, like I told you, just like Mikey, I believe they're the same people, whether they is or not, it don't, all their minds is the same. They illiterate, we know that. One of my supporters had to tell John Cole how to spell video. But anyway, if John Cole family didn't have any problem when they was in the war, my daddy was in World War II. Some of my critics a couple of years ago said my daddy couldn't have never been in the war. I'm wondering why he go to the VA to get treated. You know why? Because he got to be an honorably discharged veteran. You see, my daddy left here in the 40s to go to World, was drafted in World War II. And when he was drafted in World War II, he was drafted from right here in Charleston, Missouri. He went to Lincoln High School here in Charleston, Missouri, also known as the C.F. Bowen Center now, where the only place blacks could go to school at because the whites, and I'm not saying this is about all whites, but the whites then, it's a fact, that didn't want blacks to go to the Charleston, Missouri Consolidated School number 7. If you don't believe me, Google up John Cole like you did all the research. Tell everybody else to Google this up, John Cole. Google up Davis versus Charleston, Missouri, Mississippi County Board of Education. And you will definitely see that they had to go to the federal court to be able to go to the Charleston Consolidated School number 7, which is the Charleston R1 school district today. That's racism. You may say I'm pro-black. I'm not pro-black. I'm about justice for all. You see what I'm saying? You had no problem with my children's mother, with the Charleston, Missouri Police Department coming in our house, taking them away. You didn't have no problem with that. You didn't have no problem with my daughter's arm being broken. You didn't have no problem with them being in the streets. But let's get back to when your family, you claim, was in the war. You remember my daddy left from Charleston, Missouri with racism. Then when he went into the military, they supposed to be fighting against Adolf Hitler, one of the most racist white person on the face of this earth. But guess what? The blacks were separated from the whites. But I guess you don't call that racism. I don't care how long ago it was. And it's still happening today. But you see, I didn't have all that problem. I had a little problem when I was voting for the haves, Brent Farrow. But now, I ain't saying Keith Moore is poor, but he's not one of them big time farmers. Now that I'm trying to vote for him, people digging all into things that they say that I supposed to pled guilty, but dig into the files of one of them deputies, sheriff deputies at the Charleston, Missouri, Mississippi County Detention Center, and see if you can find that conviction, that felon, that would exclude him from working as a sheriff deputy. See if you can find from the NAACP presidents and the vice president, see if you can find that rape, and see if you can find that voter fraud that was most definitely pled guilty by, because I got transcripts when I went to court and asked the question, have you ever been convicted of a felon? And he pled guilty to voter fraud in the black community, taking advantage of the blacks. And then one more thing, John Cole and the rest of you cowards. You try to bring my neighbor into it. My neighbor went out of that conversation 4 days ago. Me and my neighbor apologized to each other. You don't like that. You don't like about the two brothers that used to live here, the way y'all get at Christie. You don't go at them brothers. You scared them brothers, Mike. Now, I'm going to leave that alone. But I'm going to just say this here. I know y'all cowards. I know y'all racist. And I know y'all sell out blacks. But one thing about it, I don't care what your your family did in the military, they able to get away with it just like the house Negroes got treated better than the field Negroes. Peace be still.